Good afternoon, folks. Sorry for having to redo, but here we go. This discussion is on cannabis use and memory. So, please join me for the presentation I made for you. Here we go. Here's a clear, grounded explanation of the headline based primarily on the page you're viewing. What the article is saying in plain language. The piece reports on a new study in the Journal of Psychopharmacological or Pharmacology showing that being acutely high on cannabis affects as much a much wider range of memory abilities than previously documented. Earlier research mostly focused on two areas: verbal memory, recalling lists of words; working memory, holding and manipulating information briefly. This study expands the lens and finds that multiple everyday memory systems are impaired during intoxication. Temporal order memory, remembering sequences in which events happened. Perspective memory, remembering to do something in the future, e.g., take medication, send an email. Source memory, remembering where information came from, e.g., did I read that, or did someone else tell me? False memory, being more likely to remember things that never actually occurred. Episodic content memory, recalling details of personal experiences. The study led the study led lead author Carrie Cutler of Washington State University emphasizes that these types of memory are highly relevant to daily functioning, yet have been understudied in cannabis research. Why this matters. The article frames the findings as evidence that cannabis intoxication doesn't just affect short term recall, it broadly disrupts the cognitive systems we rely on to navigate everyday life, from planning to remembering conversations to keeping track of tasks. This doesn't speak to long term effects or medical use. It's specifically it's specifically about acute intoxication. How this fits into the larger conversation, given your ongoing work translating complex science into practical family centered messaging, this study offers a useful pivot points. It highlights functional, real world impacts rather than abstract cognitive scores. It aligns it aligns with your emphasis on myth busting and everyday relevance for caregivers and families. It provides a practical counterbalance to research showing potential benefits in other contexts, chronic pain, sleep, or the older adult brain volume findings you've explored. If you want, I can help you turn this into a podcast segment online, a caregiver facing explainer, a myth versus fact handouts, a comparison with other cannabis research you've been reviewing. Just tell me the direction you want to take it. what the article what the article is saying in plain language. The piece reports on a new study from Washington University showing that being high on cannabis disrupts many different memory systems at the same time. Not just the classic I forgot where I put my keys kind of memory. Researchers tested 120 regular cannabis users and found that THC affected everyday functional memory. Things like remembering appointments, keeping track of conversations, or recalling where you learned a piece of information. Source memory, knowing where information came from. What it what it was it a conversation, an article, or something online? Cannabis users struggle with this. False memory. Participants often remembered words or details that were never presented. THC made people more likely to form memories of things that didn't happen. Perspective memory. Remembering to do something in the future. Take medication. Turn off the stove. Pick up a child from practice. Sequence and order memory. Recalling the timing or order of events across 15 of 21 tests. People who consume THC perform significantly worse than those who took a placebo. Notably, the dose didn't matter. 20 milligrams and 40 milligrams of THC produced similar impairments. One exception, episodic content memory, recalling personal experience, was not significantly affected in this study. Why this matters. The article emphasizes that cannabis intoxication affects multiple memory systems people rely on to function safely and reliability in life and daily life. This goes beyond simple forgetfulness and touches on safety, e.g., remembering to turn off appliances, health, e.g., taking medications on time, social functioning, recalling conversation accurately, judgment, memory, knowing knowing whether a memory is real or imagined. The researchers frame the findings as especially relevant in a time when cannabis use is common and legislation is widespread. How this fits into your broader work. This study is a goldmine for the kind of myth-busting, practical, family-centered messaging you excel at. It highlights functional impacts that caregivers and families can immediately understand. It gives you concrete examples for podcast segments or handouts like the risks of false memories or missed medications. It dovetails with your emphasis on helping people make informed decisions, not memorializing. Okay, guys, give me 1 second, please. Okay. Here is the third part. Now, today I put this in 3 parts because that's the way my notes turned out. So here's part 3, folks, of a short answer, a controlled study from Washington State University found that acute THC intoxication disrupts multiple memory systems, including false memory, source memory, perspective memory, and everyday recall at both 20 milligram and 40 milligram doses. Larger imaging studies also linked heavy or recent cannabis use to reduce working memory brain activity. What the study found: key facts, comprehensive acute trial, a double blind randomized study of 120 regular cannabis users, tested placebo 20 milligram and 40 milligram THC and measured 21 memory outcomes. Cannabis impaired performance on 15 of 21 measures, with the largest effects on false memory and source memory. Those findings, the WSU team reported No meaningful difference between 20 milligram and 40 milligram. For many outcomes, suggesting moderate doses can substantially disrupt memory. Large imaging evidence. A separate large study over 1,000 young adults using MRI found reduced brain activation during working memory. Tasks. In recent and heavy lifetime cannabis users associated with worse working memory performance. Larger team associations, reviews, and clinical summaries indicate frequent or long term cannabis use is associated with subtle cognitive defects across across the lifespan through affect though affect size and performance vary by age and exposure. Clinical caution. Medical summaries. More note links between heavy cannabis use and the broader mental health signals, including increased schizophrenia diagnoses in some population studies, underscoring public health relevance as the legislation expands. Practical implications for daily life in Pennsylvania. Do not drive or operate machinery while intoxicated. Memory disruptions include perspective memory, forgetting appointments or tasks, and source memory, misremembering where you learned something, which can impair safety and decision making. Even moderate doses matter. 20 milligram THC produce measurable effects in the lab. Users should assume impairment at common recreational doses. if you rely on memory if you rely on memory for work, childcare, or medication schedules, plan sober strategies, timers, written checklists, sober supervision. Limitations and uncertainties. Population. The acute trial used regular users, so effects in occasional or narrative users may differ. Dose and product variability. Real world real world cannabis products vary in THC CBD ratios. Lab doses may not map exactly to every product. Long term long term casualty, large cross-sectional imaging studies show associations but cannot fully prove causation. Longitudinal work shows mixed but concerning patterns. Quick guide to next steps and clarifying questions. Considerations before using cannabis: safety needs, driving, childcare, dose, frequency, mental health history. Questions: can I help you with? Okay, guys, that is your A for today. I will be back on in a bit for B. Give me a bit for B, please, and I'll be back on with that for you. For now, Gator Wellness. Take care, folks.